I've never been the same. Because back in my time, back then in 1972, this was a hush-hush thing that you could not speak of.
When I lost my mom, sometimes I feel haunted in my home. Changing the channel is so very important because our mind will make us think that we're not going to make it. Hello guys, my name is Tiffany and you've just tapped into Tiff Tank. Today is a very, very special day. It is 11/11/23, Veterans Day. And I have the pleasure of sitting here with 3 beautiful women who have agreed to join me today in an important discussion about mental health. This topic is extremely important to me just because of some things that I've experienced in my life that I've shared with you guys in my last few videos. But today in particular, I wanted to bring together generations of individuals who have a story to tell. And the goal of Tiff Tank is to make sure that we uplift the masses and let you know that no matter how hard life is, it will get better. So thank you ladies for being with me today. Vonda, Rashonda, and my beautiful mom, Kimberly. Tell me quickly, why are you here today?
I am here to join the conversation regarding mental health.
I'm here to support my cousin Tiffany.
And I'm here to tell my story.
What is your earliest memory of just something that you felt stretched your mental capacity, and the point where you recognize that maybe something is off and maybe I need to figure this out?
My first feeling of mental health was back in 1972. And that's when my sister committed suicide. It really rocked my world. I can see as I sit here and talk with you, her. I was 14 years old and I never experienced anything like that in my entire life. I was young. I knew nothing of mental health. I didn't know what suicide was. One thing I can tell you for sure, I've never been the same. Because back in my time, back then in 1972, this was a hush-hush thing that you could not speak of. I was told to never speak of it. My mom had issues of her own. And then when my sister took her life, she kept saying, help me. And I didn't understand what she was talking about. She was under the cover with the Bible, with a flashlight. And after, I didn't know what happened until she whispered, pills. I'm saying, pills? What in the world? So, I'm 14. What do you mean about pills? I had no idea. And then when she kept whispering, she said, help, I need help. So my first instinct was, I was on the phone talking to a friend, was to go try to wake my mother and let her know. Couldn't get her woke. Then I ran to the living room and tried to wake up, talk to the other person that was in the room. I couldn't get any help, so my next instinct was to call my father. I called my father, then I called poison control. And that's when they told me to try to get her out of bed. I'm saying, man, I'm 14. How am I gonna get this tall girl out of this bed? And the next thing I know, I couldn't help her. And I was lost.
That's powerful.
The ambulance came. My neighbor was a nurse. She came. And all I know was they rushed her to the hospital. And I was riding with her in her car. She said, and then the paramedics came in. Yeah, let's back that up. I'm sitting across from her. We had twin beds. And she says, the paramedic says, she thought she was whispering. She says she's gone. So right then, gone. Me, 14, not ever experienced anything about death or seeing it or what have you.
Thank you for sharing that, especially when you were coming up. That's, like you said, you're expected to be quiet.
Yep. And during that whole time, they said my mother would tell a lie. and say that she died of a heart attack. That crushed me.
Well, that is why we're here today.
That crushed me.
That's why we're here today, so that we can be open and honest and let people know that it's okay to talk when you need help.
That was the only way I could make it.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
I appreciate that so much. I can't imagine, unfortunately. For my own story, I witnessed my significant other take his life, and for whatever God reason, I'm still here today. And like you ladies already told me, there has to be a reason why I'm still here. So, and it's ironic that mom and daughters, we've experienced the same thing in different capacities, but it's the same situation. So this conversation is important. How about you ladies?
For me, it's when my mom died. It was one of the hardest things to endure. Because I felt like I was all alone by myself. My brother had his wife to support him during the loss of my mom, but I didn't have anybody. I was all by myself. My daughter was going off to college, going through a divorce. And when you can see your mom dying right before your eyes, it's very difficult to deal with. And so I needed help. I needed somebody to talk to that could understand my pain, my loss, my loneliness. And it's still hard today. And especially when you're a mama's girl.
Yeah.
You know?
I can only imagine. Thank you for sharing that.
Well, for me, it more recently is the divorce, the trauma that led to the divorce, the abuse in the relationship, verbally, physically, financially. That has been interesting coming through, and it's still fresh. I mean, it's barely been 6 months, and just healing through all of it. Sometimes I feel haunted in my home. That's why I mentioned earlier I'm doing the renovations, and that's my passion project right now, because I see the damage. The door frames kicked in and broken, cracked. You know, I practically slept in my living room all summer because I didn't feel comfortable in my bedroom. Just things like that.
Yeah.
Processing, still seeing the reminders. It's almost like, oh, well, you get to keep the house, but I don't get a fresh start. I have to sit in this and work through this. And like you said, Coach, by myself. It's just me and my baby now. And he has to focus on school. And I have to focus on healing me, so I'm just trying to get by.
Thank you for being courageous enough to pick yourself and to leave that situation for you and your baby. And you're going to be fine, because let me tell you, after what happened to me, I moved to California for 10 years, and most of the time I was by myself. Being the type of person that I am, I'm more of a fighter than someone who sinks and just, becomes defeated by their circumstances. I had to implement so many things to be okay, because it was that one time when I realized that people can't help you. And as humans, we have a tendency to rely on other people and think that they're supposed to make it better and they're supposed to support us and all these amazing things. But in reality, what I've learned, God only wants you to rely on him.
Amen.
And he made me rely on him. And it was the hardest thing that I ever had to do. And so some people believe that when you go through these situations, there's a way around it. There's no way around it. So as women, what are some things that you've done to help you get through? What are some things you've implemented in your life?
What I did was to speak on it, because I was not allowed to go through therapy, because it was a hush-hush type thing. You don't tell people your personal endures and stuff like that. And then it was always a lie. The family wanted you to lie, but I couldn't lie. Whenever I heard my mom or someone say, oh, she died of a heart attack. No, she didn't. That was sort of my rebellious of feeling angry and no one to talk to. That was my best friend. To hear a man, my father, come in the room to check on me, he thought I was asleep. I've never seen a grown man or heard a grown man cry the way he did. And he used to call me Sadie. He said, Sadie, he said, I will never let nobody hurt you again. And he did. Because I was abused mentally. Then after my sister died, it got physical. I had to run for my life, climb out my window with the help of friends to get me out of the situation that I was in.
Well, I thank God that you are still here.
Amen.
I thank God that as a mother, you've covered your children and you've given us the power to stand, the right to stand in our power, and you've taught us to speak up. And that's why I'm here today. I'm like, so what? People don't want to talk about these things, but look at the state of the world right now. Like, if you look around, like, there's so many people that are hurting, and it's ultimately because they don't have the courage to speak up. And for me, I'm like, what's the big deal? Like, how come we can't look ourselves in a mirror? You cannot go around the process of the pain. You can't. You have to go through it. And someone used to always tell me it's kind of like getting on a white horse and just riding it. Like, whatever wave that grief, trauma, you just have to get on that horse and you have to ride it. Like, you can't go around it. So what do you guys think the issue is with people coming forward and speaking up?
For me, in my tribe, my family, and oftentimes in our community as Black people, we keep it tight. We keep it quiet. What goes on in the family stays inside the family. I felt as though I needed to get something off of me after the divorce. So about a week after, I posted a video on social media. And to give a quick little snippet, within all the craziness of my marriage, one of the things was I was not allowed to be on social media. And then when I finally was allowed to be on social media, there were still problems brought up out of just pure paranoia on his behalf. That was still an issue. There was literally nothing that was not an issue. But nonetheless, I said, okay, I can enjoy social media. I want to speak. I felt like throughout my marriage, I had been silenced in a way. I started isolating myself. And a common comment that he would always make was, well, I never said you couldn't do that. Thank you for that. Thank you for that little chuckle, because you know exactly what it is. What it is that, oh, no, you didn't tell me that I can't do that. But the fact of the matter is, if I do X, Y, or Z, you're going to have an issue with it. So now I have to decide whether or not I want to deal with your drama, from your paranoia, from your insecurity, all of these roots. So do I want to deal with my ex-husband's drama, or do I just not want to go to this event? And I just didn't go. For me, this public service announcement about how I was feeling and posting it on social media was big in so many ways for me. Freedom.
Yes.
Reclaiming my voice.
That's right.
But the most important reason why I posted that was to reach someone. I had someone that I was thinking about, and I felt that maybe sharing my story would help them.
I think people don't come forward because they're afraid of other people judging.
Yeah.
We're always concerned about what somebody might say, how somebody might view us. Are they going to think we're crazy or lying or not being truthful, or we making this up? It's the judgment that we do in our community so often, versus just having a heart to really just hear what someone is saying and have compassion about how they're feeling and to care for them and love them through it.
Yep. Yes.
We are so judgmental, some of us,
Yeah.
in our community. And so for me, I don't want to be judged by others. But I don't care anymore. You can think what you want to think. You can believe what you want to believe.
That part.
I know my truths, and my
Mhm.
truths are my truths.
Yeah.
So whatever you think is your business.
Yep.
I know.
And I can't be concerned about what you think because I know the truth.
Absolutely.
So think what you want to think.
Mm-hmm.
One of the ways that I dealt with my mom's death is I went to counseling. Because I had to go talk to somebody because I want to make sure I was okay. And the therapist and I, we chuckled. She said, you're okay. Use your strategies. Use your strategies. You know, strategies that your coping mechanisms that you have in you. You got to pull them out to help you heal. Whether that's reading your Bible, whether that's finding some peace in your special place, in your prayer closet.
Mm-hmm.
It's important to just find those things that can bring you peace, joy, and some contentment about where you are until you can move forward in your healing.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. I think for me, I know when I experienced my significant other's suicide, I knew I had to save myself. Like, we were too enmeshed for me to go about life and think that I could stay in DC and everything. You know, I'll just heal in this grief. No, it was very deep for me. And so one of the things I did, I removed myself from the environment. It's kind of like you're changing your house. It's like removing yourself from the environment, though you're still in it, but you're going to make it your own now. I moved all the way to California. You know, I had to remove myself because I knew that if I stayed, I wouldn't make it. I went to church, relied on God, exercise. You guys know me. Exercise became my best friend. It was like my medicine. I needed God. I needed my exercise.
Mm-hmm.
Those were the two things. And I went to therapy once I got the feeling in my body to actually be able to feel the pain that I was in. And I knew how deep it was. I said, I can't do this on my own. So I went and talked to people. Rashonda, what are some other things, strategies that you've put in place for yourself to try to heal that wound? And yours is very fresh.
I like to go with the flow. There's this book that I own called Be Like Water. I forget the author's name at this time, but it's essentially a study in the martial arts, which I also enjoy, and I just decided to somewhat be like water. So in addition to recentering myself and focusing on God first, because that is the forefront.
Yes,
so
it is.
let's just
There's
be
no way around
very
that.
clear.
Yeah.
Let's just be very clear. I moved my walk with God as number one priority, and I started reading, and I decided to be like water. So as a woman of many interests, if I felt like playing my flute that day, I would. If I felt like writing poetry that day, I would. If I felt like just free writing, now I have the tinglings of a book starting, I would. So I just did any and everything that I felt would fill my cup. Karaoke, house projects, work projects, commission projects like raised garden beds, woodwork, just all of it.
Absolutely. And what I hear you saying is something that I call change the channel. Because the greatest enemy when we're going through these things is our mind. And our mind will make us think that we are not going to make it. Everything in our life is wrong. There's no one here that understands. But you have to be deliberate in changing the channel. I know when I was grieving, if sad songs was on, I automatically tears, and I'm like, wait, I don't want to feel like this. Like, he's not coming back. Like, I have to move forward. So instead, I started changing the channel. Literally, this song makes me cry so hard, so I'm gonna change it to something uplifting, something God-centered that's gonna make me feel that's gonna fill me up and make me feel powerful enough again to keep going. Changing the channel is so very important because our mind will make us think that we're not going to make it.
I like that.
Thank you.
Changing the channel.
Change the
Absolutely.
channel.
Yeah, I really do.
And also to piggyback off some of the things that you say, I always say I'm taking myself on a hot date. So I would do anything that made me feel good. So for example, for me, seafood. So I'm gonna go and I'm gonna buy me the best crab legs, because California didn't have blue crabs like we have. So I would have to buy Dungeness or snow crab, but I needed it, and it would fill me up. It would just bring me back to center somehow. And of course I meditate as well, but yeah. What about you, Mom?
Well, my biggest thing to help me is talking it out. If it's with myself and talking to God. God has brought me through some things, I'm tell you. And I like to read. And I read passages in the Bible. And so that uplifts me. And then I ran across a book that my pastor's wife wrote. And I wish I could go over there and get it and show it, because I'm telling you, under the Bible, I'm trying to tell you that book saved my soul, because she wrote about prayer.
Mm-hmm.
And then another young lady, Swedish young lady, she wrote a book, and it was I can't think of the name of the book, but everything is over there. But between these two authors, Amanda and Miss Jackie Thomas, two different people, they speak the truth about the Bible and prayer.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What brought me through is prayer.
Yes.
And keep reading the Bible. That's the only thing kept me going, because there's been clothes, oh my God. There's been so many days I just wanted to give up.
Have you ever found yourself trying to find, in going through your healing, have you ever found yourself trying to find that peace in someone else or through someone else other than yourself?
Of course.
How did that show up?
Well, I never did try to find that peace within someone else, because I had to find it through myself first.
That's definitely the way God says to do it.
I had to go through me first, and then I had to grab a hold of him and put him back first.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I've survived everything that I've been through this last year.
She might not be telling a lie, because I have to get my strength from her. But I have, like, at some point in my healing, tried to rely, maybe in relationships,
Right. Mm-hmm.
to fill that void. But at the end of the day, like, you have to love yourself enough to know that your peace doesn't come from anywhere but within, and it comes from God.
And let's be clear about relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Relationships can be with a man,
Mm-hmm.
can be with your girlfriends,
Mm-hmm.
can even be with your children. Who you try to make feel those voids of pain.
My grandkids.
Yeah, and grandkids.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't help.
Nope. That's what
That's right. You got to depend on God to help you, to bring you to a place where you're comfortable with being by yourself through your healing. Because if you're not healed, you can't help other people.
Thank you.
You can't.
That's
True.
You have a piggyback off of that, because you just said a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
You have anything to add?
I don't actually.
All right. Well,
I don't identify with that right now in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just because I have a superwoman complex.
Mm-hmm.
So my comfort within relationships has not necessarily been seeking them to get comfort from them in that way. My comfort would come from almost finding the broken one and fixing them.
Come on.
That was my thing. And so I would find comfort in being comfort for this person.
But what I also heard you say, even though you had to experience those things, sounds like you implemented boundaries.
I tried.
You tried, but it sounded like at some point you tried to speak up for yourself and say no. And when we are going through whatever type of trauma and you're healing, boundaries is so important. Can you guys relate to that? Have you,
Absolutely.
just based on the things that you've
Absolutely.
been through, what type of boundaries have you established for yourself now?
Learning to say no.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh.
And speaking
Learning
up.
to say no and not be a people pleaser
Mm-hmm.
and speaking up. That's true. It's okay to say no.
That's one of the hardest things for me.
I've
I'm still
learned,
working on it.
I mastered
Still
it
hard.
now. That was very hard because you feel, oh, I'm obligated, or you feel so bad, my heart.
Mm-hmm.
But no, if you're not good, how are you going to be good for anybody else? If you can't feel, people will take from you, and then by the time they're done, you are so depleted, so drained that you have nothing to give to yourself.
I used to practice no in the mirror
I love it.
because you have to say no to
Mhm.
protect
That's
yourself.
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
And here's the thing, when you say that people will take from you,
Mhm.
I never forgot Pastor said this. He said when you're giving oil to people and nurturing and caring and whatever you do for people, they have to pour back into you, or you're just gonna dry up like a raisin.
I'm gonna say, when I left California, I left everything. My lifestyle, my house, I sold it, and I quit my job because it was not healthy for me, the situation that I was in, because of people that I trusted. And that's all I'll say about that. But I knew that I had given too much of myself, because when I got back here, I was not in any type of position to go back into the workforce. I was deliberate about taking care of myself. And I said, nope, I'm going to take this time off. I will pay myself during this time, but I have to replenish myself, because these people that I loved so much and that I tried to help so much, they drained me. And so I was very deliberate, and I have very strong boundaries now. And I know I probably get on my mom's nerves sometimes, because I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that.
I'm grown.
It's not even, well, I've been grown. I've been doing it.
But something.
But it's
I'm not a
like,
child.
no, I'm not going to feel obligated to do that. I'm not going to do it. And I'm sorry that you feel that way, but you know my story, and this is why I have these boundaries. And I'm very firm about
Sweet.
that. I have to take care of myself. I start my day a certain way, with God, with music and silence, because that's a part of my continual healing journey, to take care of myself, so that when I get to my place of work, that's often chaotic, I can deal.
And I think it's called protecting your peace.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have to protect your peace.
Absolutely, because no one else is going to care about your peace, just as long as they can take from you. They're not going to care.
Mm-hmm.
So what it sounds like we are all saying is that we have an interest in others, and making sure that you guys hear our story, and that hopefully you take something from it that will help you to keep going no matter how hard your life is. I want to thank each and every one of you ladies for being here, for being courageous, for helping me to live out this dream. Even since I started Tiff Tank, it was always in the back of my mind, I want to have generations, and we have to have this conversation, because my significant other is not here, because he would try to go to the VA appointments with 3 months down the road, and I'm like, we don't have 3 months. He needs help today, but thank you guys for being here. Thank you for being courageous, and I pray that we did a good thing today.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you ladies so much for joining me at Tiff Tank. I love you guys.
We
Love you.
Being here.
Thank you.
Thank
Love
you
you
for
too.
having
Oh my
us.
gosh,
So
you guys
proud
are
of you, so
amazing.
proud of you.
Yeah.
We did it.
You